Hi everyone, today we're going to talk about the 5 top self-publishing mistakes that I have seen over the years. If you're new here, my name's Courtney. I write under the pen names Lyra Parish. You can find me all over the internet there. And I'm also one half of the USA Today best-selling duo Kennedy Fox. I self-published my first romance book in 2014. In January, it will be my 7-year anniversary of being self-published. But trust me when I say I've seen a lot of crazy stuff over the years. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. I don't know what it is about being a new author and wanting to dip your toes in all these different genres, but I feel like some authors try to branch out at the beginning of their self-publishing career, so they do not have a solid reader base in one specific genre. So for example, your first book is contemporary romance, your second book is a thriller, your third book is a young adult fantasy, and they are all published under the same pen name. That is one of the biggest mistakes that newbie authors make because they just want to throw spaghetti on the wall instead of sticking with one genre, building a solid reader base, and then trying to branch out of that. I do know people now who have been around just as long as I have that now write contemporary romance and urban fantasy, but it took a little while to be able to do that. Find a genre, stick with it, publish a lot of books in that genre, establish yourself, and then try to branch out, or then try to create another pen name where you can write the other books that you're really passionate about. At the beginning, you're just confusing your audience because they don't know what to expect from you. Number 2, new writers don't always research their genre. They decide that they're going to write a romance book and they're not going to read any romance or research any romance. Like, they've been in love before. They've got this. That could be a huge mistake because there are different tropes and trends and things that happen in self-publishing so quick that it's really important to go and do your research. And this is not only for the story aspect, but also for your book covers, because the covers that worked in 2014, I really don't think that they would work now in 2020. Research the genre as a whole. Covers, blurbs, stories, the types of tropes people are using, the types of titles people are using, and make a list of authors that you are inspired by and see what they're doing. Get your cover and put it along people who are selling really well in the genre that you are in right now. Do a comparison. And if your book doesn't seem like it could compete with those, then you need to start over with your cover. That's just a little pro tip. There are people who are unicorns who can do whatever they want on their covers, but honestly, as a newbie author, I think it's really important to have a good story that can compete with those who are selling really well right at this very moment. Number 3, bad branding. I know that I've been on Amazon and I've looked at series that people have published, because when you click on a book down below, it shows you all the other books that are in that specific series, and the covers don't match. And it's super confusing if you're just looking at it laid out to know what book goes where, or if these books are even related to each other. When you are trying to build your audience, if you have a cohesive brand where all the pieces and all the different series kind of fit together, it grabs their attention to continue on, because then you have set the expectation for yourself and for your brand. It's not a bad thing to try different covers. Make sure that it fits within the genre, it passes the thumbnail test, and if for some reason it doesn't perform well, you have to be willing to change those covers. I know it's real hard. A lot of self-published authors get very hung up on doing specific things over and over. You have to be willing to change as well. My advice would be to go and look at all of your books on Amazon if you have several published and see what the branding looks like across all of them. Is it cohesive? Is it confusing? Are you writing in the same genre? Are you just all over the place? Because if you think that you're all over the place when you look at it, a reader is most likely going to think the same thing as well. Number 4. This is something that I have seen a lot over the last 6.5 years, and it is new authors setting their expectations way too high and then giving up too soon. I am a firm believer that if you keep going and you move past the struggles and the failures, because guys, failure is the greatest teacher. I have a video on this. I haven't watched it in a long time. I'm still going to link it right up above so y'all can go and view that, but Failure is the greatest teacher. It teaches you where your weaknesses are. If you can look at your mistakes in an analytical way, then the next time you become better, whether with writing, with marketing, with publishing, with pushing your backlist, with doing different types of sales, trying out different marketing strategies and things of that nature. I know several authors who are my friends who have published 5 or 6 books over the years, and they're frustrated because they haven't broke out or they haven't made a bestseller list. They lose their motivation and they stop writing. Maybe a year or 2 passes and they release another book, and then they're frustrated because it didn't do that well. Every single person out there wants to be successful with their books. They want to make money. They want to make lists. They want to have their books turned into movies. I mean, I can list all the things that authors really want. Expectations such as, I want to make $10,000 in the first month on my debut novel. I feel like that's a very high expectation, and that's something that you might not be able to do. I'm not going to say you can't do it, because I've seen some new authors pull off some crazy stuff over the years. I've seen tons of authors write a book for their first time that they were just super passionate about, hardly did any marketing. They told their friends and family. Maybe they have an email list, pretty much they don't. They posted it on Facebook, they posted it in a few groups, and they posted it on Instagram, and then they are upset because they sold maybe 3 copies. And I think that if you're going to set your expectations high, you need to be willing to work to make sure that happens. But to just have a high expectation without putting in any work is just going to frustrate you and upset you. I usually tell people after they've published maybe 10 books, if you're not breaking even in the first month, then you need to really look inside yourself and ask yourself, what can you do to improve? And it's really easy to point the finger and blame all the outside sources. The economy, my Facebook ads aren't working because Facebook hates me. Like, it's easy to point the finger and blame so many other things, when in reality, you need to turn the mirror around and ask yourself what you can do to make sure your next release is better. I know that's kind of like tough love talk, but I do not really stroke egos. My friends know that I'm going to tell them the truth. And sometimes that truth hurts. Sometimes my friends will release books and they won't do well, and they're like, my book didn't do well. I sold 25 copies this week, you know, and I'm really frustrated. And then my question always is, well, what did you do to make sure that release was successful? And you can't do the basic things. You have to think up a marketing plan. You can't just release a book and have this wild expectation that it's just gonna rise up the charts. Those days are gone. Now you actually have to work for it each time you release. And that's for us too. We've released 26 books. We're working on book number 27, and we still work just as hard with this book as we did with the first one. So what you have to do is set a realistic goal, create your expectation off of that, and then have a plan where you can accomplish that goal. The more you publish and the more you release, the better you get. And it's a building block. And each time you release, you learn something new and you become better and better and better. And there's not an end goal, guys. Like you are never just like the expert, because things always change. Technology changes, different things happen in the industry. We have a recession. I mean, there's just so many outside factors that you can't control, but you have to focus on the things that you can. And number 5, some people think that writing is a get-rich-quick scheme, and they're doing it for the wrong reason. And those people are the ones who burn themselves out very quickly. This is a marathon, not a sprint. And they just write a bunch of books, publish them, they don't do very well, and then they get mad because they wanted to make money. They wanted to be famous. They wanted to have the movie. They wanted all these different things instead of them writing because they are passionate about it, because they enjoy it, because they love it. I might be throwing just a little bit of shade, but I know y'all don't care. But a perfect example of that is there was a woman who was teaching people how to hire ghostwriters and get 50 books written and then publish them all under different pen names until one broke out. These people were not writers. They were literally just like a ghostwriting factory. They were just getting the stories, didn't know anything really about the genre, ripping off covers from authors who were well established, who were writing their own books, who were doing the thing, and basically were copycats. Copycats with story ideas, copycats with everything. And then they realized that they don't know anything about marketing and they don't know anything about publishing books. Just because you have a story doesn't mean that it's a good story, and it doesn't mean that it's a sellable story or a marketable story. They wanted to make a lot of money, they didn't, so they move on to the next thing. I personally don't like scammers in the self-publishing realm. There was a lot of people who were book stuffing back in the day because their only goal was to make money. It is amazing to be paid for your work. But if you start off writing because all you want to do is make money, I have a feeling that it's not going to work out very well for you, because there are a lot of people who don't make a lot of money. And there are a lot of people who make millions of dollars. But it takes a lot of work, and you have to be passionate about what you're doing, because if you're just doing it for the money, I don't think that it's going to be sustainable or you'll be able to keep doing this long term. And so yeah, hopefully that wasn't too much shade thrown, but if it was, you'll know me, I really don't care. So those are the 5 mistakes that I've seen newbie self-published authors make. And you have to remember, as a self-published author, you are setting your own goals. You're making your own publishing schedule. Like, there is no reason to be so stressed out that you can't handle it, because you are in charge. You are the CEO of your own company. So that's all I've got today, guys. I hope that that was helpful. And if you have seen yourself make any of these mistakes, please let me know down below. I am guilty of so many of them, but I think you grow out of it eventually. Eventually it just all snaps and clicks and you're like, oh yeah, totally, I got that. That was such a newbie mistake. It happens. And the reason why I share this stuff with you is so you can avoid making the mistakes that I made. Then your career will skyrocket much quicker than mine did. If you have any questions, as always, feel free to leave them below. If you haven't subscribed yet, pretty please subscribe. Turn on the bell, guys, so you get notifications when I post videos. I am upping the video count. That's right, me. You're gonna see a lot of me, and I'm super excited about it, and I can't wait to post all the things. It's gonna be great. I hope y'all have an incredible, amazing week. You accomplish all your goals and you write all the words, and I'll see you again in my next video. Bye, guys.